Hey guys.
What is up, folks? Welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso, here with my boy
Soltero, what's up, guys?
I'm wearing glasses, bro.
I'm having tequila.
This doing things a little differently today, huh?
Okay.
And it makes sense because we're talking about a team that is a little different in essence. And that team is Denmark, man. The Danish folk have arrived to the World Cup, making what is going to be their 6th appearance in the World Cup. 5 appearances in past times. In 1986, they made it to the round of 16. 1998, they had their deepest run in the World Cup, making a quarterfinal appearance, losing to none other than Brazil. 3-2. In 2002, they went on the round of 16 yet again. 2010, group stage exit. And then 2018,
They were there in 2010?
They were there.
Holy shit. Yeah. Oh, my God.
They were there, man.
Okay.
And then in 2018, as we saw a round of 16 exit when they lost out to eventual runner-ups, Croatia, in penalties. So how did Denmark get to the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar? Well, they won first in Group F, a group that had Scotland and Austria in it, both of those teams having gone to the UEFA playoff path. So it was you could say a tough group, and they managed to top it with a record of 9 wins and only 1 loss, similar to Germany, man. 30 goals for, only 3 goals against, bro.
Holy fuck.
3 in 10 games. Even facing the weakest opposition, 3 goals conceded in 10 games is insane, man. Insane. They get drawn into Group D in the World Cup with France, Tunisia, and Australia. So they'll be facing off against that French team yet again in the group stages.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people are high on this Denmark team. People are whispering.
Rightly so.
Whispering about what the potential of this Denmark team could be, because we could see some beautiful magic at the World Cup for this Danish squad, man. This team is being underestimated. This team is being generalized solely because of their name, because it's Denmark. Right. People aren't really seeing that when it comes to an actual team, when it comes to a cohesive unit, Denmark is one of the best teams out there, man. This squad might not have the most surprising names, but they have some surprising results that can't be ignored. And if you take a good look at them, you'll see that this Denmark team has a lot to offer. So I'm excited to talk about them, man, because they could be a complete wild card come 2022.
Jeez, man, you just summed up pretty much every single take that I had on this Danish squad within like a matter of 3 sentences, man. But let me, I guess, try to expand on some of those points so we can try to have a conversation about this Danish team.
Otherwise, we could just end it right there, brother.
We really could have, though, because that was so succinct, man, and what you were trying to say and describe about this Danish team, because everything that you just said is actually what I believe in this Danish side. I see a team that is completely unified, man. A team that is chemistry-wise playing at a very high level. But what I love about Denmark, man, is when you look at this squad, when you look at this 11, there's really not names. This team isn't star-studded, especially if you look at other European sides, teams like Germany we've analyzed, Portugal specifically,
Netherlands.
where Netherlands, they at least have a couple of stars written across each of their squads. But if you take away maybe Christian Eriksen, there's pretty much no other truly recognizable name from a star-studded perspective on this Danish squad. So if you're a casual, if you're a guy who doesn't really watch the whole landscape or scope of European football, you probably won't recognize any of these names realistically. And that's why I'm very confident to say that I think Denmark is the poster boy for what a dark horse team is. I have this Danish side doing maybe the impossible here at 2022, and we'll get to that later after we look at the squad and after we kind of give our predictions. But I'm going to go ahead and say right now, I think Denmark, this version of Denmark here in 2022, is the definition of a dark horse.
Starting at the back, you have none other than Leicester City legend plying his trade in France.
Right.
With Nice, Kasper Schmeichel, the Premier League winner that was a clinical part of that Leicester team that made that incredible run a few years back. He will be guiding this team from the back. He'll be providing that veteran presence now that he's at like 35 years old. He's going to be the go-to option there. He's the first name that I want to mention when talking about this Danish squad.
It gets interesting when you talk about Schmeichel, and the thing is, you'll see a very common thing when we mention the rest of this Danish squad in the sense that, like, Schmeichel's not having the best club moments right now. He really isn't. And at first I thought going to Nice was an absolute mistake. I was like, dude, just stay in the Premier League, man. Build your legacy at Leicester. You're with a good squad. The squad's guaranteed to finish mid-table. And then I see what Leicester's doing right now, and I'm like, well, no matter what he decided to do, it was going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
He was going to leak goals like crazy, and it wasn't really going to be of his own fault. So regardless of club form, regardless of the decision that he made, whether to stay at Leicester or to leave, it would not have mattered. But the thing is, it doesn't matter. Because when he gears up for this Danish side, he's playing at a high level. And he's going to be hyped up to play for this team, and he's going to show up for this Danish side. It gets really weird because I'm going to say the same thing about a lot of these Danish outfield players, man, in the sense that, like, I don't know if you can accurately analyze a lot of these players' club form, man. Because when you look at their club form respectively and separately, and you isolate it from what they do on this Danish side, you almost see two completely different players, bro.
Yeah.
We're going to say that frequently for a lot of these players, but I think it's more so for Schmeichel, man, because in France, man, he's letting in goals left and right, bro. He just is. But is that a bad thing for this Danish side? I'm ultimately going to say no. But it goes against analysis. It goes against what you see on paper, because if this was any other team, I actually would be concerned. I really would. But the way that Denmark have been playing in the Nations League, the way that they've been playing in the World Cup qualification, the way that they played in Euro 2020, let's not forget, Denmark made it to the semifinals. The semifinals of Euro 2020. That is something that you don't accidentally chance upon, bro. Denmark have been building something. They've been building something very great after 2018, and what was a good side and what was a good performance in 2018. They've been building year in and year out. And now I think it'll culminate in something special here in 2022. And regardless of club form, I have Schmeichel being a good keeper for this Danish side, bro.
Kasper Hjulmand, man. I love what this guy has done with this Danish team, man. I love it because that's exactly what you're pointing out. That it's a mental thing. It's a mentality that these players have to be performing at a certain level at club, and maybe not at the highest quality of level, but being able to find it within themselves to just reach an upper echelon when it comes to the international duty. That to me says that these guys they're hyped to play for this Denmark team. They're excited. They feel proud and prideful about what team they're representing. They are fully capable of reaching that upper height. And that in itself, it's like, why are we ignoring that? Why is no one else pointing that out? We were talking about how Spain was able to go on an impressive run the Euros, making it all the way to the semifinals as well. Why isn't that same sort of credit not being given to Denmark? And I do think a little bit of the history of the name is coming into play. Denmark, Denmark this, Denmark that. We haven't known them to be a football powerhouse, but we cannot deny when a team is in really good shape and in really good form. And I think Kasper has these guys well drilled and well set to have a really successful World Cup. One reason that I do think they'll be very successful is because of a player that they have in their backline that I've been such a fan of since I saw him week 1 in the Prem this year. Anderson from Crystal Palace, guiding that Danish backline, man. This dude is Tom Brady reincarnated, man. He slings out some incredible balls to Wilfried Zaha, to Esse. He's an incredible slinger of ball.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, God. Oh, he's an incredible passer, man. He's an incredible passer.
I got you.
An incredible passer.
I got you.
But not just that. His defending is incredibly reliable. And what I love the most about him is he's a leader, bro. He's a leader. He'll scream at you, man. Half the time I see him on the screen of the TV when I'm watching these Crystal Palace games, he is yelling at his teammates. He is guiding his backline, even getting onto the midfielders for making a mistake. And I love seeing that. I immediately saw him, I'm like, okay, if that's who Denmark has back there alongside a guy like perhaps Christensen, this is already a really good guy to have. I love what he provides to this Danish team, and I'm excited to see it in the World Cup.
For as good as Anderson truly is, and as reliable as he is defensively, he has a perfect partner, and I think Andreas Christensen. But kind of as I said before, Christensen may not be in the best club form right now. Obviously, that weird
transition.
He really isn't. He's not at all. That transition to Barcelona has been very strange, but we know what he's capable of. At Chelsea's peak in those Champions League runs, who was at the back for Chelsea? It was Andreas Christensen, man. And we know that on the day, in his best form, Christensen is an incredible center back. You pair him alongside a guy like Anderson, you have two very formidable center backs to defend the goal for Denmark, man. And the thing is, regardless of his form, he still got picked last month for Denmark. He still got picked to start, and he still got picked to defend for this Danish back line. And I have no doubt in my mind, regardless of form, man, regardless of what is going on in Barcelona for Christensen, he's going to show up in this Danish shirt. And then if you look out wide, you still have incredible formidability in a player like Maile, man. A guy who plays a very specific role with Gasperini under Atalanta. I think he does the same exact thing for Hjulmand for Denmark, man. He plays a very specific role, but he's box to box. He'll go down that left side. He'll attack as much as he can, but you know that you can rely on him to get back and defend. So ultimately, regardless of club form, I think this backline for Denmark is going to be really good.
It's going to be really, really good, man. I completely agree. And they have a little bit of depth with Vestergaard or Nelson or Simon Kjær from AC Milan. So I really like what I'm seeing from this backline. But we move on up, and it's a similar theme as well with players that are just surefire players, just solid, stable players. And I'm interested to talk about the midfield because the way I see it, if there's three midfielders, I see Christian Eriksen pinned right in that middle, quarterbacking the midfield, being the go-to guy when it comes to that position. Alongside him, I see Højbjerg from Tottenham. And so it's kind of funny how with every section of this team, we have a Reynoso favorite, man. We got Anderson, who's one of my favorite defenders, and we got Højbjerg, who's one of my favorites as well, man. Alongside them, this is where I want to have a discussion. I think I see Delaney starting for Denmark, given that he was part of that 2018 squad that qualified for them after 8 years without being at the World Cup. Getting them out of that group. He was in much better form back then. Now he's aged a little bit more playing at Sevilla, but he still seems to be like almost like a bit of a veteran presence for them. Yeah. And so I want to pose the question of, do you see any other Danish player potentially starting in place of one of these three guys?
I really don't. I'm going to be completely honest. If you do go with a pair of defensive midfielders for Denmark and then you have Christian Eriksen in that attacking role, I only see Delaney paired alongside Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, man. But the thing is, I don't think you really lose much by starting Delaney because he's a hard hitter, man. He's going to defend like crazy, and when he does get the ball, he does have the talent to hold on to it, to have some sort of possessive presence, to be able to hold on to the ball and then kind of give it to the more talented players, whether it's Damsgaard up top or more specifically Christian Eriksen in the middle. I do think it's a great option to have, and again, I don't think you lose anything by starting Delaney, man. Kind of like you said, he gives that veteran presence, and I don't think there's a better midfielder to start alongside him. You could have more maybe creative players like Daniel Voss, I know has played in that center of the park position. But for me, Voss is just very inconsistent, man. I'll see him play some incredible games, but then I'll see him play games where he's just mistake-ridden, bro, where he's just giving the ball away left and right. If you start a player like Delaney, you just know what you're going to get. And I do think if you play more offensive-minded players like Eriksen alongside that, I think it's okay. Yeah. But one thing I absolutely love about this Danish midfield is that they are their own hype men, bro. You have Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who is in the form of his life right now. And what I love about this Danish team is that, for example, let's say you have an opponent attacking this Danish back line. You'll see Højbjerg make a 60-yard run because he gets so offensively involved in a low-key kind of way, but he'll run back, retrieve the ball, and get it because he's that good. And then from there, he distributes. And once Eriksen sees that, he's like, oh, shit, let's go. And the thing is, that fuels the rest of this Danish team. And that's why I'm really getting at the idea that no matter what this club form is for a lot of these Danish players, they fuel each other. They hype each other up.
Yeah, I almost see this midfield as like the fathership of Denmark. If you have any trouble on the field, if you don't know what to do with the ball, if you're a little nervous, a little hesitant, look to the midfielders. Yeah. We got three players that are around that 30-year-old age mark, if not older. Look to these guys, and these guys will give you the support, the confidence that you need. And like you said, they'll be feeding If you want to continue along that father theme, they'll be feeding the offensive players. And so for me, it's such a reliable midfielder to have. It might not be the most star-studded midfield. It might not be the biggest names or the flashiest.
Right.
But when it comes to international football, I think people underestimate the impact that style of play can have and the impact that a well strung out unit can have when they're all playing on the same level and on the same like wavelength, man. Let's stay on that Danish frequency, man. Let's stay tuned to it because I think so far the plays that we've analyzed are all on it, and it's why they've been so successful. And it makes the most sense when you look up front, because up front, you don't really have a big name, man, whatsoever. Even the midfield, you do have some. You can even say in the back line, there's a somewhat notable names. But in the front, man, the offensive options that Denmark has aren't that flashy. But, man, they find a way to generate goals game in, game out. And I just got to give it to them. I got to give it to them because they figured something out. Every other international team has to look at Denmark for how they are able to make so much out of so little. Yeah. It's not that they don't have any talent. It's just that so much of it is so young or maybe a little out of form, but they're operating on levels of like a Netherlands, of levels like a Croatia, like a Belgium. Yes. And it just boggles my mind in a really positive way.
I absolutely agree, man, because the combination play of this Danish side is so impressive. When you look at this front three, I'd say two of these positions out of these front three, really, I wouldn't be confident in if it wasn't Denmark. I would criticize it. And that's why looking at this team analytically almost doesn't make sense.
I agree.
Because for example, if I look at this left wing side and I look at Mikkel Damsgaard, he's going through a weird time, man. But the thing is, Hjulmand has been mainly going with him out wide on that left position. At club level, not necessarily playing the most for Brentford, and he's not having the same joy that we maybe saw him play with at Sampdoria in Italy. But dude, when he plays for Denmark, man, he's just a different type of player. He's so much more creative. He's so much more on the front foot. And kind of like I was saying, when he sees that midfield operate, he almost gets inspired. And we see him score these crazy goals, or we see him get very involved offensively to the point where, kind of like as you were pointing out, this Danish side has a knack of just finding a way to score goals. And in a weird way, Damsgaard is a part of that. But even look centrally, Kasper Dolberg, not really scoring that much for Sevilla. Just genuinely not. But maybe that's not a fault of his own, because the Sevilla side is on a downfall, in my opinion. I kind of said it at the beginning of the season. I'm not big on Sevilla in general. I think they're going through a really dark time as far as like efficiency is concerned, or as like, I don't think Sevilla is as good as they used to be by any stretch of the word. But when Dolberg plays for Denmark, he's just a different player. He's a lot more active. He makes a lot of runs, and he's just a bigger player in bigger moments. And that's why Denmark has been so successful, man, because they're able to rely on players who don't necessarily show up for club, but man, do they show up at this international stage, bro. But one player that I do think is actually putting out numbers at club level, bro, Skov Olsen, man. He's having a fucking season, man, at Club Brugge, but it kind of goes along with that level that if you're not watching European football, you'll have no idea who this guy is. You'll have no clue. But Skov Olsen, a penetrator like no other. But one thing I really love about his style of play is that he just knows how to attack you. He's not going to just nonsensically dribble at you or penetrate and go inside. He's really good out in that very wide position. He's going to be tugging that sideline, and he's just going to be waiting to be released. Waiting for that final ball. The thing is, he has that ability to be released consistently because he has players like Eriksen and Højbjerg to feed him. So I'm very excited to see what Skov Olsen can do at this World Cup, man, because I don't think we've seen him on that big of a stage yet. We've seen him do pretty well in the Champions League this year because Bruges have been, honestly, kind of a surprise in the group. I think Skov Olsen is going to have a field day here on an even bigger stage of the World Cup. So I'm very excited to see what this front three can do and how they can combine with a star-studded midfield.
Dude, I wonder if a guy like Damsgaard, if he gets talked down to in that Brentford locker room. They talk down at him because of his numbers, because of his skill. And he's like just mumbling to himself like, if only they knew what I do for Denmark weekend. Like I'm talking all this shit. But it's just crazy because that same mentality, that same approach, that same story could be applied to so many different players. Dolberg, bro, I haven't heard about him in years, man. At the club level, at least, I haven't heard about him in years, man.
It was just Euros and nothing else.
Yeah, I was excited about him a few years back, but then he seemed to just slow down. But here he is starting for Denmark and guiding them to these incredible Nation League victories. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. You also have other options that are worth mentioning in Martin Braithwaite from Espanyol. You have Cornelius as well, hell of a name. I mean, one of the most popular Danish players, Yusuf Poulsen, man. But also dipping in form as well. Who knows if he can find that quality to be able to get that starting position. And then the last offensive option that I think Denmark has is Jonas Wind, that can play as a winger on either side of the pitch, playing for Wolfsburg right now. He could be a decent call-up, and he might be able to find his form as well. So you got like 5-6 guys here that are like nominated for the call-up.
Absolutely.
But Casper's going to end up going with these youthful players. And as a fan, bro, as a fan of just the game and of this World Cup, like, that's awesome. There's something special about youngsters, man. Youngsters, and more specifically with a tournament this big, nothing else compares, bro. It's almost like Kasper Hjulmand has built a system where it's the safest way to give youngsters the responsibility that he's given them offensively, because behind them, it's nothing but veteran options, solidity, really smart players, and players that can even help them out offensively if needed. It's like he's handing the keys of a Lamborghini over to a 15-year-old, and he's saying, you know, drive circles around with this shit. Yeah. And I'm just excited to see it, because this could work out. This could make for some incredible moments, and this could be remembered as a moment in the World Cup when these 3 youngsters pop the fuck off. Yeah. Just imagine looking back on it and being like, damn, remember that World Cup where Dolberg just went nuts, man? Yeah. Olsen having a really great tournament. For the rest of his career, he chases the height that he had at this tournament, and he never gets there. The James effect. But imagine the beauty of that, man.
No, absolutely.
Imagine that. And then Damsgaard having a crazy tournament and then not even starting for Brentford, you know? Still not getting that starting out, but knowing that at the international level, he had something that he'll never forget, man. Right. That's something I want to see as a football fan, and I'm excited, bro. I think this Denmark team will be one of the funnest teams to watch because they're such a wild card. There's so much unknown about them, and I'm interested to see how people react to them, especially if they pull off the results that I hope they pull off.
When you really do look at this Danish team holistically, centrally, there's so much solidity. Christensen, Andersen, Højbjerg, Delaney, and Eriksen. Those 5 players alone can basically act as the base for this Danish team to flourish. Because out wide, it's completely unknown. Whether it's Mæhle, Damsgaard, Dolberg up top, Skov Olsen, Christensen at right back, there's so much unknown and a kind of a wild card effect when you kind of look wider at this Danish team. But when you mix them together, you get possibly something really special, man. Because again, those 5 players that make up the central portion of this Danish squad, they're so talented, man. But again, at club level, maybe they're not going to be the most star-studded type of name. They're not going to be the guy that you go to that team to watch them play. But together, that's why I love international football, because then you get something truly special. Kind of as you were saying, man, there is a potential for Denmark to do something incredible at this tournament. We've seen them already almost do it at the Euros, and they were able to do that without Eriksen, because he had that scare in the group stage, which was, you know, horrible. But it is incredible that he is already back playing at high level football. It's absolutely insane, and it's so remarkable and so inspiring. But they've already shown that they can do it, and for them to go into this tournament in the form that they're in, with the chemistry that they have, man, this Denmark team truly is a wild card. So I'm so excited just to see what they can do, because when I look at them from an analytical point of view, nothing makes sense. But that's what soccer's about, man. That's why we watch the World Cup, for just a singular team of Denmark. It could very much be kind of like a Costa Rica thing, where in 2014, no one really knew what Costa Rica had in mind. No one knew what they could do, but they made a deep run. Denmark could be the exact same thing, where like only if you would watch them play, only if you had seen these players play together, would you actually predict Denmark making a deep run. And the thing is, I very well could see
Whoa,
it.
bro, I did not think about that comparison, man. Denmark, Rica, man. This is crazy. That's crazy. I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right that they're going through those steps. I've been so focused on other teams that we haven't done deep dives on that could potentially fulfill that Costa Rica model. Denmark is a nominee for that.
I think Denmark's a nominee.
You got me sold on that one, man. This one's crazy, bro. This one is crazy for me. And I want you to know that what I'm about to say, I truly, truly believe. And I would just want to add as much gravity and as weight to the following statement as possible. If Denmark gets second place in their group, they get knocked down in the round of 16.
Okay.
If Denmark gets first place in their group, they're going to the semifinal. I truly believe that the placement of Denmark in the group that they are in will define their path ultimately. It's insane the path that they could go on if they get first. If they manage to top France, which they've done in the Nations League, by the way.
Right, they just beat them.
Yeah,
they literally
multiple
just
times. If they can do that on the biggest stage in the World Cup, I think Denmark will be set in terms of momentum, in terms of confidence, but also just their path. They face slightly weaker teams down the line if they get that first place position, and it's actually somewhat notable. Whereas if they get second, bro, they're matched up against Argentina around of 16.
I was gonna say, so is that's what does it for you? Is Argentina, bro?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, here's the thing. Let's have some fun here. Let's say Denmark do really well against Australia, do really well against Tunisia, and barely lose against France, or even better. Let's say they tie France, but France just have a slightly better goal difference.
Right.
You think that they're going to struggle against Argentina? I think differently, brother.
I think no matter how they get the second place positioning, if they get to second place positioning, they won't make it past the round of 16.
I disagree.
I'm 100% sure of that.
I disagree.
And I think that if they get first, they'll then be drawn against one of the weakest round of 16 opponents the tournament has to offer. That's almost an automatic spot, whether it's Poland, Saudi Arabia, or Mexico. They then can go into the quarterfinals high on confidence, having topped their group, having won the round of 16 match, and then at that point, who knows who they could be facing. It would just shuffle, and it could be England, it could be Netherlands, who knows? I think with that momentum in hand, this team is going to the semifinals if they get first. And the thing is, I do think they will. I have Denmark
There's a good chance.
topping Group D. Therefore, I don't have to entertain the Argentina-Denmark debate. I'm actually thinking Argentina-France personally. I have Denmark getting first, bro, because they've shown to be almost like a French kryptonite, man. They just managed to beat them, and convincingly so, man. I'm really impressed by how Denmark has been able to pull out these results in the Nations League against giants, bro. And that's why I'm so big on them this time around.
Bro.
I have Denmark getting first place in their group. And then from then on, man, just a magical, magical run. And once they're in the semifinal, I mean, there's no telling how far they could go.
Imagine if they go there.
Can we talk about that for a minute? Imagine if Denmark makes a semifinal run in the World Cup. Yeah. I don't think people will forget that one, man.
Oh, God. That would have to be the most impressive semifinal run, because we can make some comparisons here. We could talk about Uruguay, who have like a population of less than 2 million.
That one was really impressive.
That one was incredibly impressive when Uruguay went to the semifinals in 2010. Obviously, they've won the tournament before 1930, right? Different times, but we could talk about modern times when Uruguay did something very special, but they still had, some big names. I'm talking about Diego Forlán. I'm talking about a young Luis Suarez. But then we could also make a very recent comparison and talk about Croatia, man. I mean, Croatia is such a small nation, but the footballing talent that they've produced over these last 10 years specifically has been almost unparalleled, bro. I mean, we've seen some biggest names, obviously the biggest one being Luka Modric, one of the finest midfielders the world might ever see. And Croatia was able to produce that. But when we talk about Denmark, man, this might top all those. And I'll be completely honest, because, again, outside of Christian Eriksen, I don't know if I could compare the talent that Denmark have to even that Croatian side, man. Because Croatia still had Mateo Kovacic. They still had Marcelo Brozovic. They still had Ivan Perisic. Very good Mandzukic. Exactly. But for Denmark, I just don't see the same quality. But I can see a similar result, which is insane. So for Denmark to make a semifinal in this era of football would be absolutely ridiculous. But And again, whether the viewers think I'm hyping them up or we're hyping them up too much, I just don't think so. I think Denmark is very capable of making the semifinals. And my ultimate prediction is this. I have Denmark making out of the group stage 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. Regardless of
for sure,
regardless. I think they're in a fairly easy group, to be completely honest, outside of France. But even then, they get outside of this group stage. I think regardless, whether they finish in first, whether they finish in second, whether they face Argentina, whether they don't face Argentina, I have them winning in the round of 16. Even if it is Argentina, again, I've said this before in other tapes, Argentina will lose to the type of team like Denmark. They will. And so to complete that narrative, I'll say it. Denmark face Argentina, Denmark beat Argentina.
You have to, based on what you said.
Based on what I said. They will go to the quarterfinals. So my prediction ultimately is this. Denmark will make it to the quarterfinals. They are a top 8 side in the world. And then from there, man, anything's possible. I can see them making it to the semifinals. I'll say guaranteed, though, I see Denmark going to the quarterfinals.
God, even that would be incredible.
Even that's insane, yeah.
Even that is insane.
Yeah, but I do see it.
Wow.
I absolutely see it.
Man, that'd be insane. You said it earlier, man. The poster boys for a dark horse right here.
Yes, they are my dark horse.
I think they're the poster boy for what it truly means to be a dark horse. I think another candidate would be like Netherlands, but even then, Netherlands is almost too big of a name to be considered a dark horse at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Denmark,
That's a good point.
Denmark is right under the radar, just where a dark horse needs to be.
That's where the dark horse lurks, man. They lurk in the shadows.
Right there. And it could be them or another team that will potentially do a deep dive later on down the line. That is Denmark for you folks. Please let us know, where do you guys stand on Denmark? I'm truly curious. Do you guys see them as a semifinal team, quarterfinal, or are they more of just a second place in the group, round of 16 type of exit team? Remember to comment, like, and subscribe to keep updated with us as we continue doing these deep dives. And man, the World Cup is just inching closer and closer. And so looking forward to the next team that we talk about, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace, guys.